All right, what's up? We are back in the attic. We're gonna tie a PMD tonight. My name's Sam Wike with House of Fly, and the Fly Project. This is a pattern that we started with Fly Project, and I'm surprised we haven't made an updated video of this fly because it's literally one of the only PMD flies I throw on the Missouri. This is a fly inspired by Todd Smith. It's very similar to his pattern, so I don't want to necessarily claim that it's my pattern. We made a few changes to it. It's also a fairly common cripple silhouette, but with a few changes. So this one uses a deer hair top wing. We overextend the hackle size to make it look like a spinner profile from the bottom. This one uses UV ice stub and EP trigger point fiber. So just some updated materials and little twists to the design, but really have to give credit to this one. It's a tyer named Todd Smith from Boise, and his pattern is called the Smith's Freestone PMD Cripple, which is a commercial pattern tied by Rainey's that we carry in the shop. So we carry both patterns, or they are a little bit different. This is a little brighter, this one's a little darker. So it's a great pattern. The body's rusty, so it can use it anytime when rusty spinners are kind of the ticket out there. But materials wise, I am using a NU 406 number 16 dry fly hook, mostly tied in a 16. You can tie it in an 18 as well. We carry it in 14, 16, and 18. EP trigger point fibers, I like the rust color. This one's using a little bit amber color, or sulfur I think they call it. So it's this here. So you can use whatever you think looks best. We're using a wood duck tail from Tom Gagnon's material list. We have a rust turkey biot. Actually, I think it's called the Rusty Spinner Color Turkey biot. Have a grizzly hackle, 1 to 2 sizes oversized for the hook. So we're using a 12 or a 14 grizzly hackle. Using UV pale yellow ice stub. And I'm using Josh Farner's gray deer hair. So we have that on the site as well. Not necessary to use gray, I just happen to have gray, and it's a light gray, so I thought it looked nicer on a wing. That's all the materials. I'm using Nano Silk 12-aught orange. And that's it, we'll start tying it. All right, we'll just start with the wood duck tail here. Got a little wood duck flank. We have a ton of wood duck right now on House of Fly from Mr. Tom Gagnon from Missoula. So it's been hard to get for some reason. And he had a ton of it, so we got a bunch. So we want that tail about the same length as the shank of the hook. Like I said earlier, I'm using a NU 406. The 406 standard NU hook is like a 1 extra long hook. It's even a little bit longer than the 1 extra long, like if you're used to using Umpqua or Dairiki hooks. So kind of got to keep that in mind if you're using an alternative hook, because on this cripple you need the whole length of the shank here to make it work. So you really do need the full longer shanked dry fly hook. Second material we're going to put on is this Enrico Puglisi trigger point fibers. So I like to use rust. This color is a little bit more amber. And I like the trigger point fibers to come down about half the length of the wood duck tail over the top. We want the wood duck tail to be the part of the tail that touches the water, dimples the water. But as the fly starts to not float as well or whatever after you catch a fish, or gets dunked, or it's just in fast water or whatever, you have this trigger point fiber on the back, keeping it, helping it float. And you'll notice since we're doing a biot body from here, we want to keep we want to keep the materials level here. So when we wrap the biot body on, it looks nice and straight. So I'm not cutting any of the materials off towards the back of the hook until we get to where we think the length of the body will be. So we wrap it almost a little bit past halfway up the shank, and then you can cut all these materials off. But we want to keep that part all pretty even here, because that is the part that we're going to wrap the turkey biot on. So I have a brown turkey biot here. Got two. We need one. All right. So we have a brown turkey biot. I like to wrap them, in this case, you know, I don't honestly know if it matters whether you wrap them down or up. I don't think it matters at all. But we're going to wrap it with the, we're going to put it onto the shank of the hook with the C of the turkey biot facing up. So then when we wrap it, the C faces down, so you won't see as much segmentation. I'm going to pull that back a little ways. We have plenty of turkey biot to work with. Again, keeping that whole body as straight as we can. And then I like to use the Stoneful hackle pliers. I probably say this in every video, but these things are awesome for wrapping turkey biots. All right, so we're just gonna wrap this turkey biot with the C channel kind of facing down. And what I mean by the C channel, the turkey biot has like a natural cup to it, and we are trying to keep the body somewhat smooth with a little segmentation. So I'm spreading the wraps out a little bit so the segments stand up a little bit. But to be honest, this part, it probably doesn't matter too much. I think you want to show some segmentation. That's the point of adding the turkey biot. There we go. All right, so we got the turkey biot on. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add some deer hair. This is Josh Varner's deer hair in gray. I like to use a little bit thinner deer hair because we're not using CDC on this fly, so the thinner the deer hair we have, the more probably realistic the wing looks. We have a ton of colors of Varner's deer hair, but if you have elk hair that you think is fine enough, or you have, you know, deer hair or whatever of any kind, it can work for this part. We're going to stack the ends here. We're going to not use too many pieces either, you know, maybe there might be 10 or something, because there's a lot going on the front of this head and we don't want to crowd the eye. And we want the ends of these to pretty much match the ends of the tail. That's kind of how I estimate the length here. So we're just going to do a nice loose wrap to get it started, because we don't want the back deer hairs to splay out. And we'll get a little tighter as we go forward, so it lays straight back flat, and then these ones can split out a little bit. But we see we keep this front pretty clean up here because that is where we don't want too much material to end up, so we can tie off the fly at the end here nice and neat. Okay. Next we're just going to add our hackle. So this is a size 16 cripple, and I like to use 14 or sometimes even 12 sized hackle for this, because I kind of like this cripple to also kind of look like a spinner, and it can do that from the bottom if you use a little bit wider hackle. And then I normally always want to put dubbing in a dubbing loop, but I'm using this UV yellow ice dub, pale yellow ice dub, because, and I'm just going to put it on with my fingers because I want it to be really thin here at the front. I don't want to build up. And I've tried to put in a dubbing loop many times and it just makes it too thick. So that's all that needs to be. You also want it to stay on there pretty tight. When you put in a dubbing loop, generally you're trying to get it to splay out, but not in this case. So we're going to make, I think, about 3 wraps here. Of the grizzly hackle. And then we're going to cut a notch in the top here for a spot for this deer hair to pull over the top. Once we pull it over the top, that first wrap over the top, we're gonna pull pretty tight, which is why you want this nano silk thread, because you can pull tight without breaking it. And then put a couple wraps underneath, and we're going to whip finish that off. Three or 4 turn whip finish is all we need. So we got just, 10 or so of these cripple fibers going out the front. We're going to cut this pretty shallow on the bottom, almost dead even probably with the hook gap there. And let's see. I think that is all we need to do here. So we've got this is our PMD Cripple that we kind of developed here for the Missouri. Again, this is definitely inspired by Mr. Todd Smith, who has the Smith's Freestone PMD Cripple. Definitely don't want to take credit for this. We made a few adjustments to his pattern, but it's still basically a very similar pattern. But it absolutely crushes on the Missouri, and I hope you guys can give it a try at home. Thank you for watching.